So, as we've been reporting, the World Economic Forum, of course, taking place in Davos in the Swiss Alps, brings together political and economic leaders from around the world to discuss issues facing the global economy. The president of Iran set to speak there later today. Our business editor Stephen Carroll is there for us once again, aren't you, Stephen?
Hello, Stuart. Yes, President Rouhani's speech, of course, one of the most anticipated events of the World Economic Forum this year in Davos. It will be only his second major international speech since coming to power, of course, after his address to the UN last September. Now, we will be expecting to hear what he has to say about not being invited finally to the Syrian peace talks that are going on in Geneva. But also, of course, there'll be a range of other topics tackled too. The economy, of course, being very high up. He's here mainly to try to persuade foreign investors to return to Iran after we saw the lifting of some of those sanctions earlier in the week. Now, also, President Rouhani has been speaking, in fact, to Swiss television here. He's been saying that he's hoping that they would be able to repair their relationship with the United States after 3 decades of very strained tension. So it will be interesting to see what he has to say. That speech coming up in a couple of hours here. It's entitled Iran and the World, expected to cover a whole range of topics.
Yeah, of course, we'll cover that speech a little bit later on here on France 24. Also there, of course, Stephen, in the Alps, plenty of people talking, not surprisingly, about the state of the economy as well.
Well, exactly, and the Iranian economy will also be up for discussion today. This is, of course, an issue being discussed. It's being described as a post-crisis summit here in Davos. They've moved on from those years of crisis, being a little bit more optimistic now. And to talk about that further, I'm joined by the chief economist of IHS Global Insight, Dr. Nariman Bahravesh. Thank you for joining us. Let's talk first about Iran. I mean, what are we expecting to hear about the Iranian economy, and what are the hopes for the Iranian economy this year?
Well, certainly sanctions have hurt the Iranian economy a lot, and Iran has suffered through a couple of years of recession. So, as you said, the hope here is to get not only get the sanctions lifted and eliminated completely, but to attract investment, as you were saying. I think this is Mr. Rouhani's chance to show the friendly face of Iran, if you will, because Iran has been viewed as part of the evil empire, however you want to describe it, but as a state that sort of has been quite difficult to deal with. And I think this is his chance to really say, you know, we're open for business, we're really a friendly country, and come on in, as it were. So I think this in the end will be the message that he'll most likely deliver.
And is he delivering that to the right audience? Do you think there are ready investors here in Davos ready to put money into Iran?
I suspect there are. Certainly in some industries, energy, an obvious one, but there are others as well. It's a populous country, potentially an emerging market, if you want to call it that way. So indeed, I think there'll be quite a few interested parties here.
Now, you have a reputation as being one of the most accurate predictors of what's going to happen in the global economy. You made 10 predictions last year, 9 of them came true. Look into your crystal ball for us and tell us what's in store this year for the global economy.
Well, it'll certainly be a better year this year than last year. Last year wasn't horrible, but it was not great. But this year will be better. I think the mood has improved. You can sense that here in Davos quite a bit, especially in certain from delegates from certain countries like the US, UK, Germany in particular. It's a bit of a mixed bag. I think certainly, as you were saying earlier, the crisis in Europe is pretty much over, but there's still a long road ahead in terms of youth unemployment, in terms of deficit and debt reduction. So it's not over, but the worst is over in some sense.
And what about emerging economies? I mean, they've been driving growth in recent years. Is that going to continue?
Well, that's the real disappointment, is that many of them, not China, China's doing okay, but many of them, Brazil, India, Russia, have slowed quite dramatically. And so the big question here, and one of the other speeches is Dilma Rousseff coming up from Brazil, President of Brazil, and really the question for her and others is, what are you going to do to reignite growth in your economy? So I think that speech as well will be viewed with some anticipation.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Nariman Bahravesh from IHS Global Insight. Just time to look at the markets quickly before we go over in Asia. A survey of China manufacturing data disappointed investors. That sent Chinese shares into the red. Generally a negative picture across the Asian markets. Shanghai down by about 0.5%. Same figures in Nikkei. The Hang Seng down by over 1%. There were plenty more from Davos throughout the day here, but do stay tuned to France 24 for more.